Okay, I get a lot of questions from people that still, we're beginners, and I want to take time with beginners, and I want to be patient, and because I know a lot of people just those who've been watching the videos for a long time, they have, they've gone through the beginning, and a lot of people haven't, but for those that are just beginning, this is a little piece that I just finished, a little hobo that I just did, and here's a little piece from Jayatone I made out of that it's going to be a cane in his hand, and here's one with a cane in his hand. He's an older man. These are just a number of little flat plane carvings that I've done, but I get a lot of questions about knives and things like that, and so I want to kind of go over that with you. Now, just to review, we've been carving a while. I use a Ron Wells knife, carving knife, and you can get that at Little Shaver's Wood Carving Supply or Smoky Mountain Wood Carver Supply, or whatever it's called, Ron Wells. Mike Shipley is making it now, but for my type of carving, I love it. It's a fantastic knife. I love it, using it, and that doesn't mean that you have to use it. I'm just saying I like to use it. I like the way the handle is. I like the way the blade is, and I love the way how flat the blade is, because for flat plane carving it's excellent. And so I use that type of carving knife. You don't have to use this type of carving knife. There are many fine Helvey, those type of knives on the market, but I prefer the Ron Wells knife right now. And now I use three basic tools that I carve with. I use the knife, I use the V-tool, this is made by FlexCut, and I use the gouge, which is also made by FlexCut. These are the three tools, basic tools you're going to see me using as I do that. FlexCut is not hard to find. You can find it in most any wood carving store or whatever, and they are, as you can see, the V-tool, and then I'll show you, as a beginner, I'll show you what the V-tool is used for, but then you have the scoop, or the gouge, as we call it, to scoop out or to make a certain way. But a lot of you ask, what do I use to carve with, basically? That's it. See these three tools? That's all I use to carve with, to make my figures. Gouge, V-tool, and of course, a carving knife. Now, I know a lot of people use a lot more tools, but I don't. I use basically these three tools to work with. These are called palm gouges. That's a palm V-tool and a palm gouge, in other words. In other words, they're small tools that I can use in my hand when I'm working with them. Now, just because they're small does not mean they can't cut your hands, or they can't cut through you, or whatever. They're very sharp tools, and they can do just as much damage to your hands as a larger gouge or V-tool. So always remember that, just like the knives. I use I think this is about 1/3/8 inch blade. It doesn't matter what size blade you use, it can still cut you. Understand? Now, people still ask me, what is the best wood to carve with? And this is and I still will tell beginners basswood. A lot of people will try to go to walnut, things like that, but as a beginner I would suggest basswood, because of the simple fact that it's a softer wood, doesn't have a lot of grain, and cuts very nicely. So I would for a beginner, always recommend basswood. Now, of course, basswood can be obtained at most carving supplies. If you have information, get on WCI, which is Wood Carving Illustrated. Go to their message board, and you have all kind of carvers, and you can get all kind of information on them. Okay, now, I told you I will show you what a V-tool does. A V-tool, as you can see, is shaped. Call that because that's what it is. It's shaped like a V. And when you run it across the wood, see what it does? See that? It makes a little V. See that? See that? Now, what do I want to use that for? Very simple. See See the hair? See the hair on him? That's used with a V-tool. Now you can also use the V-tool to work inside the, any place, in other words. For instance, his beard. His beard is, I use a V-tool. Okay? See how it makes the hair on the beard? That is what I use the V-tool mostly for. And as you see how it just makes the V-cut? Just like that. And that's why they call it a V-tool. Now, what is a gouge? A gouge is for scooping out, kind of like. Now, I don't use a gouge as much as I use my V-tool, but whenever I made that canoe, for instance, the inside of the canoe, I used a gouge, as y'all saw, to gouge out that wood.